This is a Geek Leader. Welcome to episode 173 of Geek Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda, and let's talk about Rust. If you're not familiar with Rust, Rust is a programming language that is used all over the place, from game development to aerospace engineering. It is built to be extremely reliable, extremely efficient software. And if you want to learn more about Rust, there is a free one-day conference on September 15th. So it is at the Live at Manning conference, and you can check it out. It's a full day where it goes all the way from how to learn Rust, what is it about, how to use it, what are some applications for it, where does it work the best. I mean, we're talking about from game development, aerospace engineering, and everything in between. So you can learn more about Rust and attend this free one-day conference on September 15th, starting at 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Go to geekleader.com/rust. Again, that's geekleader.com/rust to learn more. All right, Geek Leaders, today on the show, I've got Glenn Lundy, and he has got a show right now on Facebook Live, which I checked out this morning. It's a daily show called Rise and Grind, and it's all about getting you up early, motivated. He talks a lot about cultural and leadership development, how to improve in sales, and just in life in general. So, Glenn, with all that being said, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.
So, yeah, I was checking out your show, and Rise and Grind is kind of like the name of it, right? But it's also kind of your mantra. Can you talk a little bit about what Rise and Grind means to you, and kind of how your life and your career has led up to this point, and kind of what you're doing with that?
Yeah, man. So as far as Rise and Grind goes, I'm sure most people have kind of heard the term or the phrase, but it's something that I actually heard for the first time from Eric Thomas. I was listening to motivational speaker Eric Thomas, was kind of trying to turn my life around. I had spent a rough decade. I had a really rough decade, making some poor choices. And as I was coming out of that and starting to learn more about myself and the responsibility that I have to take some actions, I started doing more like self-development, reading books, listening to videos, trying to get a better understanding of the spiritual side of myself, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across this, Eric Thomas. If you want it to happen, make it happen. If you want it to happen, rise and grind. And I was like, holy smokes, man, that's like resonating with my soul for some reason. And so I started to discover, as I studied more people, more successful people, I started to discover that they all tend to have very specific and unique morning routines that they do every single day. And they attribute a lot of their success to that. So as I began to explore that, I started to realize that like our beingness, if you want to use that word, who we are as human beings, we have this desire to rise every single day with intention and purpose. And when we do that, it helps us to evolve into the absolute best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be, ultimately, so that we can go out and make an impact in other people's lives. So I started to study sleep cycles, morning routines, all of those different things. And then I had to take it a little bit further, John, because this is just kind of how my brain works. So I went a little bit further. I'm like, well, let's really define. We understand what rise means. Now let's look at this word grind. What is that? Like, grind can sound negative sometimes, or like rough or harsh. And as I dove into this word grind, the definition of the word grind is simply a constant repetitive action. And so I took the two pieces together, like rising every day with intention and purpose. If we grind, a consistent repetitive action, and I added one little component to it, which is a consistent repetitive action that moves us towards the goal. You see, a lot of people grind, right? Consistent repetitive actions every single day, but they're not actually moving towards their target or their goal. Some people call that the hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're 70, 75 years old. You're looking back at your life going, I did not accomplish any of the things that I dreamed of. So by putting those together, a good solid morning routine with the consistency, the consistent repetitive action every single day, moving towards a target and a goal, I was able to create a philosophy that I now live my life by. And I also teach and train other people how to do, which has expanded and become what we have now. So the morning show, hashtag Rise and Grind. We also have a group on Facebook. We've got mastermind classes. I've been able to speak on stages all around the world. It's really been incredible what happens in your life when you focus on the first hour of the day and really create a repetitive, productive morning routine. It
Mhm.
changes everything.
Oh yeah, I think that perspective that you get, I forgot what book it was that I read. It may have been Hal Elrod's book, A Miracle Morning, but it talked about how
Sure.
just making your bed in the morning, having that one win under your belt, like can set off, just a chain reaction of positive things that go off that day. And it's one of those things like I noticed during quarantine, that was one of the things me and my wife did every morning. Got up, made the bed, made the kids, that was the first thing that they did. Before you leave your room, you make your bed,
Right.
and then if something happened or somehow we got off on our schedules or the baby woke up in the middle of the night and just messed us up, if I ever came into the room and the bed wasn't made, it was just like, oh, that negative feeling just kind of overwhelms you. Oh, I didn't do it.
Totally, man. 100%. I'm with you there. Making the bed, catching that win, and really finding space for. So we're three part, right? Mind, body, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can find space to serve all three components first thing in the morning, it's really powerful. So I have five step. I actually wrote a small little ebook on this that anyone can download for free, but it's 5 simple steps to an extraordinary life. And step one is simple, just don't hit the snooze button, right? So we can capture that win. Plus there's a lot of science behind why the snooze button is miserable for you. Step two, don't touch your phone first thing in the morning. Stay away from that thing. All of the information that's in it will be there later. You're not ready for it yet. Your mind is not ready to consume the violence, the politics, the negativity. You're not prepared. So we don't grab our phones first thing in the morning. Step three, write down your gratitude list and your goals. So write down 10 things that you're thankful for, and then write down 10 goals, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals. Do those things together. It sounds like 2 steps, but it's actually one. Goals by themselves can actually make people feel worse. Like if you're constantly like, I wish I had a bigger house. I wish I had a cooler wife, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually bring a very negative connotation. Whereas if we start with gratitude, I am so thankful for my home. I am so thankful for my wife. I am so thankful for my career. I am so thankful for my finances. And then we add goals of a bigger house or a better relationship on top, coming from a place of gratitude. It's got more power.
Yeah.
So that's step three. Step four is take care of yourself physically, man. Do some type of exercise. Get out there and do something, man. I don't care if you got to crawl. I don't care if you're just walking. Get moving. And then step five is the most powerful one of all, John. Once you've done these four, you're vibrating on such a powerful frequency. You've been basically selfish in the morning, right? Which is a good thing. You're serving yourself first thing. Now, step five is we need to send out an encouraging message. So you got to release this powerful energy on this positive frequency, release it out into the world to make an impact on someone else. So whether it's a text message, a Facebook message, somebody in your home, whatever it is, an email, just send out something that encourages someone else. And when you blend those 5 steps every single morning, transformation is inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all those 100%. I had AJ Jacobs on the show a while back. He had a book called A Thousand Thank Yous, where he went through the process of thanking everybody that made his cup
That's
of
right.
coffee, and one of the lessons from that was to, every, he talked about every day you needed to, go through a list of things that you're grateful for. And when I started adding in gratitude into my life in general, just overall became a happier person.
Right.
Things that would normally frustrate you, now you come to them with a different mindset. And I think that's extremely important. I want to back up just a little bit though. You said don't snooze. And I know in college that was kind of like my thing is I always hit the snooze button as many times as I possibly could. And it probably wasn't until I had kids that I realized the detriments of the snooze button, right?
Sure.
And obviously when you have young kids and you've got 7 kids, right?
Right.
You no longer have to have an alarm clock. Your kids got to get you up, at least when they're young. But not snoozing. Why is that a big deal? And what have you seen with people that you've worked with and coached about snoozing?
So there's a lot of science behind the way that we sleep, right? We sleep in cycles. So we when we first go to rest, we're in a light sleep. Then ultimately we go down into a deep sleep. Most people know it as REM, and then we come back up into a light sleep. These cycles only last between 2 and 3 hours. So everybody's cycle is roughly 2 to 3 hours long, from a light sleep to a deep sleep, back to a light sleep. And the reason that we did this, the reason that we've evolved this way, is back in the day, before you had ADT security systems, locks on your doors, and all of those other things, it wasn't safe to go into a coma for 8 to 9 hours every single night. And so we go through these different states of awareness out of security. It's a survival mechanism. So once you understand how you sleep and you start to create a pattern of sleep, your body is basically adjusting your cycle depend on the time that you go to sleep and then the time that you normally wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've had this happen, John, where you wake up like a minute or two before your alarm clock goes off. You ever had that happen?
All the time.
All the time, right? It's because your mind and body is already prepared to wake up at that set time. It's already ready for it. So you technically don't even need that alarm clock, but it's theirs and it's good insurance, right? Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we'll run into it. So here's what happens. The sleep cycle has you in an alert and awake state right as that alarm goes off. If you reach over and hit the snooze button, you technically send yourself back into the next sleep cycle. Basically, you're sending your body and mind into a lower state of efficiency for the next 2 to 3 hours. So 10 extra minutes of sleep on that snooze button, you're exchanging 2 to 3 hours of grogginess at that point. Whereas if you just get up when your body was ready to and trained to, you don't hit the snooze, you may feel groggy for a minute to 5 minutes, but you're already in an alert state. And so really, fairly quickly to your feet hitting the ground, you're gonna be in a fully alert state if you wake up immediately. So it's basically the devil, man. It's selling you 10 minutes of extra rest. It's convincing you that, hey, if I sleep 10 more minutes, I'm actually going to feel better, when the opposite is true. That extra 10 minutes is going to extend your grogginess until you get through that next cycle.
So basically, you're trading 10 minutes of comfort for 2 hours of misery.
That's exactly right. And that's why so many people are like addicted to, don't talk to me till I get my coffee, all of those things, because we're trying to supplement that energetic feeling with something outside, because you can't just beat the system. I mean, the system's there for a reason. So I wake up at 3:50 a.m. I go to bed at 11:30 every night. I sleep 2 full sleep cycles, which is 4 hours and 20 minutes. I get up at 3:50 a.m. I don't drink any caffeine, never have. And all that energy just comes from a great understanding of my sleep cycles and staying away from that snooze button.
Awesome. Well, tell me about your morning routine. What is your morning routine like?
That's it, man. As soon as
That's it.
I wake up, 3:50, I follow the morning 5 every single day. So
Uh-huh.
I wake up, I throw my headphones on immediately. I put music on that has no words, because I don't want the outside world to influence my frequency or my vibration. So it's music that's inspiring. Think like movie music or theatrical music, that type of stuff. So I'm firing the brain, and at the same time, I'm not stifling any creativity. I immediately then at that point, I'll get a big glass of water, a nice big glass of ice water, and I head downstairs where I write my gratitude and my goals. That takes me about 20 minutes to do gratitude and goals. And then from there, once I'm done with gratitude and goals, since I have my show Monday through Friday, my morning show, At that point, I will pull out my notebook. I write down the words "good morning," and then I will sketch out a 30-minute show. And it
Mhm.
takes me about 30 minutes to do that. Then from there, I go do my show, which is me releasing, sending out an encouraging message. I do that every single morning with my show. And then from there, I'll go take care of the physical. So I have to do that part a little bit of out of order just because of the time. But right after I send out the encouraging message and do my show, then I head home and I go for a run for like 2.2 miles or something like that. And that's when my kids will meet up with me. My kids like to get up 6:30 in the morning, and they'll go run with me, bike ride, all that good stuff. So they're learning to attack their mornings as well.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's great. Great example to show for them. And, that's one thing that I noticed, like when I look back on, my dad was always awake before me, that's kind of the way it always was.
Right.
And, you kind of want to have that example for your children too, that, I'll be awake when you go to sleep and I'll be awake when you get up, kind of that
That's right.
protection that, that kind of mindset that you have. So you mentioned that you have is it daily show or weekdays, or what's the schedule for the show, and kind of what is the theme of the morning show that you have?
Yeah, so my morning show is Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. live on Facebook. It is entitled #Rise and Grind, and it's all about motivation, education, and inspiration. So I wanted to create a safe place on social media that people could come to first thing in the morning and know that they weren't going to get politics, violence, or any of that other crazy stuff. Instead, I would want to help inspire other people to start their day off on the right foot. So we've done 696 episodes as of this morning, straight every Monday through Friday for the last 2.5 years. It's been quite the journey. It's been awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. And you have a pretty good following on that, I noticed as well. And I think I saw today you had Ray Lewis pop in.
Yeah, we've got some. So on Fridays, we'll have some celebrity guests that come on and do the show. And sometimes I can get them to come on for full 30-minute shows. Sometimes we just get a connection. And so Ray just sent out, a quick little message like, "Hey, Glenn Lundy, Rise and Grind. This is my thing. You guys should watch the show."
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Which is cool.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Especially someone like that who, I've always looked up to Ray Lewis. I love, his mindset, his, go get him attitude, and the fact that he's on board with the Rise and Grind is really cool.
It is cool, man. And it's crazy because I just started, I started on January 11th of 2018, and it was just me in a utility closet upstairs in my house. My eyes weren't used to these big bright lights that you got to have on when you do a podcast, and or when you do a show like that. And so it was just me in a utility room, and I didn't know if anybody would ever watch or if anybody would ever care. And I honestly didn't think, I had no idea it was going to take me to where, it's taken me all around the world now at this point. But it's been so neat watching it grow, man, from one connection to the next. I've had people like, Grant Cardone has been on my show, his wife Elena, Ed Milet has been on the show, a lot of different NFL athletes, NBA athletes, Eric Thomas, the guy who initially sparked my #Rise and Grind, he's been on the show like 5 different times. I've gotten to speak on stages with him and some other great people. It's just, it's incredible where it's taken us, man. It's really, really incredible.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's one of the things you're kind of living the fact that, if you just get out there and do it, right, and you put forth the effort and you stay consistent. I think consistency is one of the things that people kind of lose focus on, is that the consistent effort of just like you said, rise and grind. You got to go through it, got to grind through it and be consistent and do it every day. You might not see a huge jump at first, but every day you're making one step closer, one step more progress, and it just continues to build on itself. And, I've been doing this show now since 2015.
Nice.
And I wasn't very consistent at the beginning. And, if you look back on the numbers, it was pretty apparent. But for the past couple of years, I've been very, very consistent. And doing it consistently, you get much better guests, you get much better listeners, and you learn and you grow. And, the value that I get from talking to someone like you on this episode, I'm going to take something. I may not remember everything we talk about, but if I can remember 10% of it and apply that, then I'm going to be a better person at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubt, man. There's an equation that I live by, and it came from a book called The Like Switch, Like switch. And in this book, there's an equation that is frequency plus proximity equals affinity. So the more often I can come in contact with someone, and the closer in proximity of that contact, the more likely to increase their affinity for me. They're going to like me more. They're going to find me more attractive. And I don't necessarily mean physically, but just they're going to be they're going to be drawn more towards me. And so knowing that equation, one little caveat, it has to be a positive interaction, right? If you and I are frequently bumping heads in proximity and always wanting to throw blows, that's a little bit different. But as long as it's a positive interaction. So knowing that equation, that applies to why you've had success in the podcast world, why I've had success with my show, is really that equation, right? The frequency is there. It's consistent, like you said. The frequency is there. The more often we can get in front of that person, that's awesome. Proximity is closer than it's ever been in the history of mankind. John, I have my show Monday through Friday at 5:30 in the morning. People watch my show. Like, I have more intimate relationships with my viewers and my listeners than they do with their spouses sometimes. I mean, they listen to me while they're in the toilet, bro. They're watching me, they're listening while they're in the shower, right? Like, all of these very intimate places. And so proximity nowadays is such a gift with technology. You can't get closer than somebody's phone, right? And so by just showing up every single day, having that positive interaction, being in proximity, people can't help but grow on you. They'll like you more if you continue to show up and give them that power, that positive feeling. So once I learned that equation, I always think about that in everything I do. How can I get in front of my customer, in front of my client, in front of my listener, in front of my spouse, in front of my kids? How can I increase that frequency and keep that proximity super close and intimate so that they can grow to like me more over time?
That makes so much sense. Like, I've never heard it put that way, but when it comes to leadership, that's one of the things you don't want to be, is that leader that's always hidden away, right? You always want to be in front of your team. You want your team to see you doing the dirty work. If things need to be clean, you want to be the one sweeping the floors or cleaning the toilets or doing the job that they don't want to do. And you want them to see you doing that thing that's going to help them out in the long run. You want them to see you going to bat for them, having their back, teaching someone, helping people out. And I think that's one of the super important things. And I was just thinking about that just recently when I teach part-time at Winthrop University. And I've always taught, one of my classes is information design. And it's a kind of a junior, senior level class. And we have always met one time a week for like a 3-hour session. And this year, because of COVID, everything's locked down, students are all remote. So they said, hey, we're going to do this class online instead of a lecture. Are you good with that? And I said, oh yeah, of course, no problem. And because I now have more freedom because it's online, I'm not limited to a 3-hour block. I can actually record videos every day. I can do as many videos as I want and put them out there. And now I'm not doing them every day, but there's going to be more than one per week. There's going to be several times a week that I'm going to be interacting with these students, asking for feedback, asking for them to, record their own little videos and send them back to me. So we're going to have conversations, on a more repetitive basis than just one day a week.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's really a game changer. It really is. It's powerful how the human mind works and makes that connection. If you and I both work out at a gym at the same time at 6 a.m., the endorphins that are being released by our bodies create that positive sense, positive feel, right? So you and I don't know each other, but we're at the gym same time every day. Our body will actually start to connect John with my good feeling that's actually coming from the physical exercise. And so at first, we won't say anything to each other because we're strangers. But as we see each other more frequently, we'll start to do like a little head nod towards each other, or we might start saying good morning towards each other. And as that frequency continues, that relationship will go from good mornings to, hey, how are you today? Hey, so what do you do for a living? Hey, do you have any kids? Hey, can you come spot me? Right? And relationships develop over time simply because of that frequency and proximity. It's really incredible.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And you know, now what's the challenge that people may have today? Let's say I'm leading a team. We've always been able to see each other on a regular basis because we work in the same building. But then COVID happens, and now my team is remote. How can I continue to have that kind of proximity and get in front of my team when they're remote? What are some tips and tricks that we can do?
Well, you definitely got to increase your outputs. You know, I work with dealers all across the nation, and that was the very first thing that I told them when we went into starting to do some work from homes and different things like that was like, dude, you got to increase your output. So 2 a day Zoom meetings was what I recommended, you know, with the whole team. Let's get the whole team together first thing in the morning. Let's give them some direction. Let's listen to them, get some feedback, all of those good things. And then let's get the team together via Zoom at night and see if anybody had any challenges, any breakthroughs, any strategies that are working for them. So now we're 2 a day on that. Then I also recommended that my dealers, I talked earlier about sending out an encouraging message. Dude, no better time than now
Mm,
to attack and help your people's mornings. Because what most people are doing is they're waking up in the morning and they're flipping immediately to the news where they're seeing Black Lives Matter, violence, protests, politics, COVID, all the stuff. So if you can shift that just a little bit by sending them maybe a motivational video to start their day, maybe you send them a song that gets you all jacked up. Maybe you send them a message that says, hey, John, I know I haven't been able to see you, but I gotta tell you, I miss you, man. I missed the way we joke. I miss being able to see you in the building. I miss the high fives. Hope you're doing well. I'll see you in the meeting. Something that simple, taking 10 seconds to send a message to each of your employees. And there's group text, there's things like group me, there's ways to do this without it being time consuming. The technology exists. So just really increasing the outputs, pouring into those employees and reminding them in such soft and subtle ways that you care deeply about them and their success. That's how teams thrive during a season like this.
yeah, I think that's 100% right. I think it's just increasing that connection and communication. And I know, like, with all that's going on, there's a lot going on too, with politics or, I've stopped watching the news. I just can't take it anymore.
Right.
but,
It's
um,
crazy.
but, having that means of communication, sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot. It's just letting people know that you're there for them. Can mean, a huge difference. You talk about encouraging others. And sometimes it's just sending a message and saying, hey, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm here for you. If you
That's
want to
it.
talk or want to listen. And, I think that's one thing that leaders need to do, when um, the first round of protests after Floyd's, death happened, I reached out to all my African American employees and just said, "Hey, if you need to talk about anything, I'm here for you. I don't understand. I don't, I haven't been there, but I want to be here for you. If there's anything I can do, let me know." And it was very simple. And most people, took me up on it and had a little quick conversation. And most of them weren't very long. It weren't, you know, but I learned from it, which is what I need to do and continue to learn from that. But then I hear from other people, weeks later that, employees in different departments in different areas and different companies coming by and saying, hey, so and so said that you talked to them about this, and my boss never even said a word, and just wanted you to know that I respect you for that. I'm like, really?
Right.
How did you know? And it was kind of one of those things that I didn't do for recognition. I did it because I want to learn. I want to make sure my people are protected and safe and feel good and understand that, I'm here for them if they need it.
Yeah, man, that's huge. It's all people really want, man. Like I sometimes I use an example of like if you're driving in a car. See, a lot of times leaders get so busy leading. They get so busy leading that they forget that they have people that are following them.
Mm,
You're not a leader if nobody's following. So
exactly.
I liken it to, if you're traveling, you're going somewhere in the car and you've got a caravan of people that are supposed to be following you, you're constantly looking back, right? Like You go, you're aware, you're like, hold on, I'm not going to go through this red light or this yellow light, because if I go through, then they're going to get stuck. So instead, I'm going to stop. I'm going to make sure they're caught up. I'm going to make sure they know what direction we're headed. I want to make sure that they know where we're going. Before I make the turn, I look back, make sure everybody's in line, everybody's right behind me, everybody knows the direction, everybody knows where we're going. If somebody does get lost, they know that I'm the lead car. This is my number. They can call me. I'll stop and I'll wait for them if I have to, right? Like we do that when we travel. If we're leading the car line, it's just natural. But we go into business and we get to leading and we forget that just because we made it through that yellow light doesn't mean the guy behind us did. So we got to stop and we got to check in and we got to keep the communication lines open. And we got to make sure that we don't turn or get too far ahead where they get lost,
Yeah. That's a
Super
great
important.
analogy, because you'll think about it sometimes, and people will say, "Oh, you're leading a team, so you need to push them forward. You need to go forward. You need to," but they also say you need to go ahead of them, right? And
Right.
sometimes if you're moving so fast forward and you don't look back to make sure your team's with you, you're going to find yourself out there by yourself.
That's it. All alone, man. So that's a terrible place to be.
Yeah, it is. So I know you're the morning five, and you have a 67-day challenge with that. What's what's behind the 67?
Yeah, so Harvard did a study finally a few years back. They did a study because, some people say it takes 30 days to make or break a habit, takes 21 days, takes
Mm-hmm.
whatever, everybody's got all these numbers. And so Harvard did an actual study scientifically to find out biologically at what point does something shift physically that makes a new habit easier to do than to not do. And as they did this study, they determined that it takes 67 consecutive days of either creating a new habit or trying to break an old one before it now becomes easier to do the action than to not do it. On day 66, it would be easier to not do it than to do it. On day 67, it's easier to do it than to not do it. So a great example again would be the gym. If I'm trying to get fit, I want to get into exercise. You see people do it every year, New Year's resolutions, 2 weeks in, they're falling off, 4 weeks in, they're falling off, 6 weeks in, everybody's gone because they didn't realize that before they're going to actually physically want to do it, it's going to take like 2 months and 7 days.
Mm.
That's how long it takes biologically for something to change. And so we challenge people to do the morning 67 straight days, knowing at that point it will cause a long-term shift in their physicality that'll make them want to continue to do it going forward. And so we actually give away free gear, man. We give away backpacks, hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff to anyone who can consecutively do all 5 steps and post about it, share about it on their social media so we can just verify. And then we get a little video at the end from the people that have completed it, and they talk about the transformation that's happened over those 67 days. It's incredible, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to link that up in the show notes too, on how people can find your morning five ebook and start their 67-day challenge as well.
Yeah, man. They can just go to themorning5.com, and that's with the number 5. And you can download the ebook for free, and it gives you all the details on the 67 days as well.
Awesome. So, what's next for you? You got the show going. You've got, the morning five. What else you got going on?
I actually, right now we have a lot. We have a lot going on, but at the same time, my company's grown more in the last 6 months than it has in the last year and a half. We've had
Yeah.
some really, really, really killer months. We were doing everything virtually before COVID, so we already kind of had dominated that space. And now people are realizing the value in that. And so we've just been really blessed. We've had a lot of things progress and move forward. We've really been able to evolve. And so actually just this weekend, it's funny that you said that because I'm constantly like, okay, let's do this. Let's move this. Okay, we're going to go over here. How do we tackle this? And this weekend, I was just, something washed over me in regards to what we were just talking about with the car line. I was like, okay, hold on, Glenn. You got a team of people now, right? We've hired 5 people in the last couple months. It's like you've got a team of people We need to slow down just a bit, slow down just a bit. Let's make sure the systems and processes are in place, that everything that we have going on can continue to run seamlessly with or without Glenn. And so, and that's a hard thing for me. And so that's where I'm at. So I've wrote out some systems, and we planned on spending September and the rest of September and October just really maximizing what we're doing now, making sure those systems are really efficient, making sure our clients are getting extraordinary over the top service. And I'm making sure that my team has time to really catch up before we launch into anything new.
Yeah, I think that's a really tough thing to do, is to try to take yourself out of it. But that's one of the things whenever I'm talking to new leaders and coaching them or mentoring them, it's you have to realize that one person can't scale.
That's right.
If you want to grow to the point that you think you're capable of, you've got to get to the point where you can be removed and everything will still happen.
Yeah, you have to, man. And you can't do that without slowing down a little bit.
Absolutely.
You got to slow down and make sure you're training the leaders behind you.
Yeah, and I think I read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, like probably, 12, 13 years ago. And one of the things about that was how, you document kind of what your process is to the point to where you can hand it off to someone else.
That's right.
And I tried to do that I was a manager of a web and mobile development team probably 8 years ago, or maybe longer than that. And I documented kind of what I did and started to delegate some of the pieces of that off, thinking that, this is obviously going to fail because they need me there. And it got to the point where I was now free to, to create new ideas and new products and, spend time, researching new technologies and not have to focus on those daily tasks that I thought I had to do, because I was able to kind of remove myself. And it caused our team to, grow significantly faster. We were able to put out products a lot faster. We were able to change our methodologies and just, went leaps and bounds greater than what we could have done if I didn't, take those few steps.
Yeah, man, it's game changing. It really is game changing when you start to open up those doors and just allow yourself. You got to create space so you can lead, man.
Absolutely.
People need to create space so that they can lead. When you're bogged down doing every single aspect of everything. Now, don't get me wrong. In order to be a successful business owner, you need to have done everything, but that doesn't mean you need to continue to do everything. And so that was, a little bit harder for me, but now I'm getting better at it. And I've got an amazing team of individuals, and the trust I have in them is incredible. And as soon as those doors kind of got buttoned up, now that I know they're in place doing a lot of the I don't want to use the word remedial because it's all important, but now that I know they're in place doing the things that were time consuming for me, it's really opened up my opportunity to do what I do best, which is work on the relationships with my clients and make sure, and my family, and make sure that those are all solid so that the company can keep moving forward.
Awesome. Well, Glenn, thanks for coming on the show. How can people find out more about you and maybe check out some of your gear? I noticed, usually when I have guests on, they have some gear, but your gear looks really good. I really like the way you did the rise and grind with the, kind of cross shape, and your shirts look awesome. So how can people find out more about you and maybe check out some of that stuff?
Thank you, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that. If you want to go to glennlundy.com, it links to all my social media pages. It also, connects you to the gear, all the different programs. You can get the Morning 5 ebook from there. Everything's at glennlundy.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate having you on.
Hey, thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode, please share it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you share your content. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. I'd greatly appreciate that. And if you want to find out more about Rust, don't forget there is a free one-day conference, September 15th. Go to geekleader.com/rust. Again, geekleader.com/RUST, Rust, for more information. Again, geekleader.com/rust.